Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the Colombians Football Report. We're here to talk about all the games that took place on day 9 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. But before we get into the games, 82% of the people who view my videos are not subscribed to the channel, so make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to see future content. Now let's get to the games that took place today. And the first game was the United States versus Australia, two English speaking countries. It was always going to be a tense game, especially since both teams knew that if they won, they would advance to the next round and have a real chance of finishing top of the group in just two games. So you could just tell it was a tense game, but the United States were definitely the better team. The Australian manager, Tony Popovich, he made various mistakes with his lineup today. He left Metcalfe, Irankunda, Volpato, all on the bench, and it was a very defensive team with not really much going forward. This was unlike the last game where, yeah, they had a defensive team, but they still had very good players going forward, and that's why they scored twice against Turkey. But they didn't have that same thing today, and the United States took advantage of it. Even with Christian Pulisic out injured with a calf injury, I'm not sure how serious it is, but I don't think it's serious enough that's going to have a huge effect on him. I think he might be back for the next game or maybe the game after that. But despite that, the United States, they still looked amazing even without him. The United States got an early goal after an own goal from Burgess, but it was a great run from Balogun. He's just the perfect striker because he is good at finishing, but he's also capable of running the channels and playing as a false nine. He's just a all-round good striker. And the United States, they kept dominating. Australia, like, they didn't have any chances in that first half, really. The United States honestly deserved to have a two-goal lead. And eventually that moment came when Freeman scored a header. Initially, it was ruled out as a offside, but in the end, it counted. VAR checked it and said it counts. And when the referee announced that the goal would stand, the crowd went wild. The atmosphere in Seattle was insane. I think this was the best atmosphere ever seen at a U.S. soccer game, in my opinion. And then in the second half, that's when Popovich realized his mistake and he brought on some of the big guns. And Australia were definitely slightly better than they were in the first half, in the second half. But the United States defense was very strong. All of them had a great performance. Freeman, Ream, Richards, and even Freese on the few occasions where Australia shot at his goal, he was there to parry away the ball. And the United States, they held on. They did a fantastic job. And now they're into the round of 32 on home soil. And this United States team could cause some serious danger in this World Cup. They look very good. This is truly the United States golden generation when it comes to football, or soccer as it's called in the country. Next, we have Scotland versus Morocco, and this game was won 1-0 by Scotland in the first 70 seconds of the game. It was the earliest goal in the tournament, but I say it was for a reason, and we'll get to that later. But Saibadi, after a brilliant pass from Brahim Diaz, who is always amazing when he plays for Morocco, he passed it right to Saibadi, and Saibadi, he just smashed that ball into the back of the net. A brilliant finish. That is why Bayern Munich signed him. He has been so good for Morocco in this World Cup, and he's not even playing in his usual position. Usually he plays as a winger or as a number 10, but this World Cup he's been playing as a false 9, and he has done a brilliant job. 2 goals in 2 games. And for the rest of that first half, it was honestly kind of a dull game. Morocco, they were definitely the better team, but they weren't exactly putting super dangerous chances on Scotland. Meanwhile, Scotland, they really struggled to create anything, so it was just kind of like the game was in a stalemate. In the second half, though, Scotland were definitely much better. They tried attacking, and they had a few chances, but at the end of the day, they barely had any real dangerous chances, and it just goes to show that Scotland's big problem is their attack because they don't really have pacey players on the wings. They don't really have a good clinical striker. So it's like when Scotland go one goal down, it's gonna be really hard for them to come back from that. They're more of a team that tries to keep a clean sheet rather than to score goals. And since Morocco scored in just 2 minutes, it ruined the entire plan for Scotland. Now, I will say there was a play that could have been a penalty. McGinn, he was tripped in the box, but the referee didn't even check it. But I don't know, it could have been a penalty. I think the referee in this game was not as good as he should have been. But the reality is that Scotland were also just not good enough. And if they get battered by Brazil on the final match day, they could seriously be one of those third place teams that gets eliminated in the first round. But this is a crucial win for Morocco. This win basically puts Morocco into the round of 32. Doesn't even matter if they finish third or second or first. They're definitely in the round of 32 now because those 4 points that they have now should be enough to go through and their last games against Haiti, who are the weakest team in the group. So it's a good win for Morocco. I think Moroccan fans should be happy with this result because while Scotland are not a good team on the attack, they're still a team that's very physical, very strong defensively, and that early goal changed the game entirely. If it was still 0-0 for a long time, it honestly could have ended like that. But Morocco, they got that early goal, and that was enough for the win, and that's the most important thing. So that's a good win for Morocco. Next, we have Brazil versus Haiti, and we officially have our first team eliminated from the World Cup, and that is Haiti. And it's very harsh because, in all honesty, I don't think they deserve to be the first one eliminated. They were definitely not bad at all. In their first game against Scotland, they deserved to tie that game, at least. They got so unlucky to not tie. They also had some referee decisions not go their way in that game. And today, of course, they were always going to lose to Brazil because, Brazil is Brazil. And even though they're not in the best moment, they're still definitely going to be able to beat a team like Haiti. But that doesn't mean that Haiti had a bad performance. They only lost by 3 goals. They didn't concede a single goal in the second half. And I think Haiti were honestly unlucky to not score at least 1 goal in this game. If you actually look at the stats, they had 7 shots, 3 of them on target. And I remember Allison had to make a really big save. So Haiti very unlucky to not score. I hope they score in their last games so that they can score their first World Cup goal in 52 years. That would be a great moment for the fans. So unfortunate that it didn't come today, but I do think it might come in the next game because they have been very good in the attack in this game and in the last game, but they haven't scored. It's just very bad luck. But I think against Morocco, they'll probably get one. They will most definitely lose that game, but it might end like 3-1 or 2-1. And if that's the case, I think Haiti should be very happy with that result, especially since they were in one of the toughest groups in the World Cup, and yet they haven't really been destroyed at all. So it's a very good look for Haitian football. It's definitely on the rise. Meanwhile, Brazil, I think Brazil in the first half were very good. Obviously, they scored 3 goals. Vinicius Jr. was on another level. Cunha, he got his first brace for Brazil. And this result, similar to Morocco, it should guarantee Brazil in the round of 32. But their second half was poor, and you would expect a team like Brazil, if they want to win the World Cup, they would need to perform much better than they did in that second half. There's still a lot of things that Ancelotti needs to fix. I'm still not a fan of their midfield, and Rafinha is injured now. I don't know how serious the injury is, and it is true that Rafinha has not been that good for Brazil lately, but he's still an important player, and that injury could be very important. So for his sake and for Brazil's sake, hopefully the injury is nothing too serious. And while Brazil, they didn't have the most convincing performance, they still got a 3-0 win, and winning is the most important thing, especially in the group stages. And after that result, Brazil has 4 points, Morocco 4 points, Scotland third with 3 points, and Haiti last with 0 points. And Brazil are top thanks to goal difference. The last game between Brazil and Scotland will be very interesting. Now we have the final game for today, and what a game this was. Turkey versus Paraguay. The team that everyone said could seriously make a deep run in this World Cup has been eliminated after just 2 games without scoring a single goal, despite having a combined total of more than 60 shots in their last 2 games. That is insane. But this game, it was a defensive masterclass from Paraguay. They got the lead only 2 minutes into the game, but remember how I said Saibari was the player who scored the earliest goal in the World Cup, But I said was because now the earliest goal that was scored was from Galarza, who scored it in just 60 seconds or 64 seconds. A fantastic goal from outside the box. He found some space and he just shot it right into the bottom corner. A fantastic goal. And then after that, Paraguay, they started to defend. That's what they do best. Any South American can tell you that Paraguay are known for being very defensive, very strong, very physical. And we saw that in this game. And everything was going good for Paraguay because they were defending well, they were being physical, and they were having good looks on the counter. They just always messed up on the last pass. But it felt like if Paraguay just got that last pass correct, they were going to score a second goal on the counter attack. But then came one of the most controversial moments of the World Cup so far, and that is that Almiron was sent off. He got a red card. And the reason he got a red card was because when he was talking to a Turkish player, he had his mouth covered by his hand. And one of the new rules in this World Cup is that players are not allowed to have their hands over their mouth. This rule was implemented to avoid situations like what happened with Vinicius Jr. and Prestiani in the Champions League earlier this season when Real Madrid played against Benfica. And that was the game where Prestiani said something very nasty to Vinicius Jr. and it basically got him suspended for a little while. So to avoid situations like that happening again, FIFA have now made this rule that you cannot cover your mouth while you're talking. Even if you didn't say anything that was truly offensive, you could still get a red card for it if you're covering your mouth. That's just how the rule is now. And that red card was a massive blow for Paraguay because their plan was working to perfection. But that red card meant that they needed to change their plans a little bit. So now instead of doing counterattacks, they were just going to have to defend and just hit that ball all the way to the other side of the field whenever they can and hopefully form something, but it was always going to be unlikely to do that. But Paraguay, they still stayed composed even with 10 men. They were defending very well. They had everyone back. Everyone knew their role. Gustavo Gomez had a fantastic game. Cáceres as well. Galarza was running like an animal. He was just going up and down the field. And Ciso, he was trying to create stuff when he can. And when he didn't have the ball, he was pressing high up the field. He had a fantastic game. And Gustavo Alfaro, he had a defensive masterclass. Because despite going down to 10 men, they managed to hold on. Paraguay beat Turkey 1-0. And what a disappointment from Turkey because Guler, Yildiz, Chananoglu, and many other players in this team, they could have done way more in this World Cup, but instead they are out in just 2 games. They're the first European team to get eliminated. And the reality is that they didn't have many chances at all. Paraguay's defense was just that good, and Turkey couldn't create any real opportunities. I would say the most dangerous chance was probably Demiral having a header in stoppage time that just whiskered past the post. But besides that, there was really nothing from Turkey. They just had half chances, and the goalkeeper he had to make some saves from, but nothing truly spectacular. And Paraguay, they managed to hold on, and this is a crucial win. This eliminates Turkey, like I said earlier, and it puts Paraguay in pole position to go to the next round. They just need to beat Australia. And of course, Paraguay will be favorites to win that game, especially after the performance they had today. They showed how resilient they are. And that will be a very exciting game to watch between Paraguay and Australia because both teams are going to be fighting to go to the next round. So now we look at the table. The United States have already secured first place because Paraguay's win over Turkey means that the United States cannot be overtaken by any other team due to the head-to-head record because the United States already beat Australia and Paraguay, and those are the only 2 teams that can equal them on points. So the United States can put a rotated team against Turkey, it wouldn't matter. If anything, that game between the United States and Turkey is actually kind of a pointless game because the United States are already guaranteed to finish first and Turkey is already guaranteed to finish last. So the game to watch is Australia versus Paraguay because both teams are going to be fighting to finish second. They're not going to want to risk going out because they finished third and didn't have a good enough goal difference to go through. So that will be an exciting game to watch. And that is all that I have for today. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel like I said earlier. I have nothing more to say, and have a good night everyone.